Hi besties, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. I totally love having you here. It makes my day. First and foremost, can we just acknowledge that I hit 500 subscribers? 500 besties, over 500 besties that literally sit down, spend their day with me, and that is just really unfathomable. So thank you so much. I am so glad you're here. You seriously make me giddy. Like, I get the butterflies thinking about talking and hanging out with you. It truly means the world that you're here and that you even watch my videos and decided to subscribe and stick around. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you, bestie. We are using my mic. It doesn't have the best noise cancellation. I feel like whatever noise is happening while I'm talking, it picks it up instead of just directly being with my voice. So we're gonna have to explore some options, some settings, maybe some alternatives to be very vulnerable. I got recently laid off of my remote job, and although I'm not upset about it, I knew it wasn't my forever. I have more time to make some videos. So prepare to be sick of me. Like, I hope you understand that. So as you can tell by the title and probably by the length of this video, that we are going to sit down and do my February and March reading wrap up. I didn't do one for February. I slacked there, so sorry. Truth is, I don't know. So I feel like don't expect a reading wrap up every month. If I do, then I'm killing it. It makes it easier for me on the back end. And then you sit here with 2-month wrap up. So I made a coffee. This is an espresso coffee. I figured it wasn't as strong in caffeine as my espresso machine. Listen, that's my girl brain. That's my girl math. My nails, they're grown out. It is time to do them, but not today. Okay. Also, if you are a whore for lip products like I am, this is what I'm wearing if you want to know. It is the e.l.f. lip oil in... It's giving guava. Okay, so if you wanted to know, there it is. I can't stop using them. They're so good. Okay, anyways, we have got a lot to chat about. We have like 11 plus 9. We have 20 books to talk about. So just grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's yap. Let's yap a little bit. If I am looking down, it's because I have notes. I need notes to communicate my feelings and my thoughts. Otherwise, we would be here for way longer than we are. So for my February stats, I read 9 books, 1 being a DNF, 2,980 pages. My audiobook hours was 25.53 hours, and my average rating was a 3.86. First 4 books I don't have. I read electronically. So the first book I read in February was Reaper at the Gates. I gave this a 4 stars. This had 3 point of views, which took me a little bit to get into. I don't know why. There was political tension and a massive plot twist around this 65 to 70% mark. I just remember being jaw dropped, shook to my core. This one definitely, I feel like, was the most intense that I remember. I could totally be wrong, and listen, reading is subjective, but to me, I feel like this one was the most intense out of the 3 I've read so far. To be honest, I felt a little bit disconnected from this story, and for that, it took a little bit of reading to get into, simply because I took a long break from starting it and then getting back into it and finishing it, so I think that affected my reading and overall rating, but not to say that that's a bad book or the book was making me bored. I just think it was like a me thing, but the ending tugged at my heartstrings, I will say. I definitely think it boosted my rating from like a 3.5 to a 4. Helene's character arc in here, unmatched. Such a standout. Elias, I need to pick up the next book to find out about these characters and their fate. Like, let's just say that. Do I have the Libby hold for the 4th book? Yes. Am I like not gonna get it for another 6 weeks? Yes. So that's unfortunate, but I would definitely recommend this series. So 4 stars. The second book I read in February was A Ministry of Time. I don't remember the author's last name. I gave this a 4.25 stars. Enjoyed this. Maybe not so much in the moment, but reflecting on it, I think I enjoyed it more than I thought. Navigated modern world compared to like war time, which made it hilarious and also heartfelt. The dual timeline aspect of the character's point of view, where the female main character, she works for like a government agency who is trying to bring people whose fate, knowing that they were going to die in their timeline, bringing them to the modern day, and then seeing if they can actually survive living in modern time and the time travel, I guess is the term I'm looking for. I really liked the male's character, like trying to understand the world as it is in a crazy jump of time. I thought that was hilarious, but also potentially realistic. It also just wasn't him, it was other people in history, so I also liked that aspect. I just have to say, the banter between the female main character and the male main character felt very Magnolia Parks to me, like just the way they would like their thoughts and feelings towards each other, but then the reality and not toxicity, but the severity of the situation, I guess. I didn't see the twist. One thing that I kept hearing about was, oh, you don't know the female main character's name and it's on purpose. And that I had no idea. So that got me. That twist got me. The ending leans a little sad for me personally, which made me realize how much or how connected I was to the characters. But to be honest, it felt very fitting for a time travel story. So that's all I'll say about that. If you haven't read it, I would recommend it. Then I read Fear the Flames by Olivia something. Read this because it was a bookmarked podcast book pick. I read it in one day because I wanted to watch the episode. Call me toxic. That's how it is. Just kidding. Also, right on my Kindle, I have the wax warmer on, and I feel like the fragrance is making me sneeze. Smells delightful though. Okay. Also, I have my balcony door open because Bingo keeps going in and out. So apologies for that if you see him walking by. So I was immediately pulled into the story just because it's a romantasy. And I liked it because it was a romantasy that also involved dragons. I feel like Fourth Wing is prevalently the romantasy if you want dragons. But it definitely gave me ACOTAR vibes. It definitely did. Also, really gave me Fourth Wing vibes, which I feel as though being an author, and this could be a very much a hot take. So I apologize. I don't mean to insult anyone, but I am being honest. There is only so much originality that one can do, and so it felt like they took a lot of inspiration and blended it, and that's kind of where it lost me. Yeah, the characters were interesting. Shout out to Finian. I liked him. I'm pretty sure that's his name in the story. Magic and setting had potential, but it just overall wasn't my favorite read. I'm intrigued to read the second book to see if there is more originality. I'm so sorry to say that. We'll see. 3 stars, average. I'd recommend it if you're interested. Just know that there are some plot points that you might have read already. Going into my third book, it's All About Love by Bell Hooks. I read this because it is written by a Black author, and February is Black History Month, so I wanted to read something. This was my standout of the 9 books I read in February. I can't stop thinking about this book. I can't stop recommending this book, and I just resonated with so much of this book. Like, really and truly, I loved everything about it. Bell Hooks captured the thoughts that we all have, but don't necessarily think of every day. And so it's really refreshing to bring the mundane, the average, the things we just put on the back burner or don't really think about to the forefront and reminds us in the book. And I really enjoyed that. I think it was really cool how she was bold in her statements. She brought up media, she brought up family, she brought up self-love, she brought up wealth and greed and generational trauma and stress and work, and she just really encapsulated, in my opinion, every aspect of life and brought it into the book and made it about love. Like, it's just crazy. I loved it. Seriously. I found myself nodding and stopping and reflecting and highlighting. Like, that book to me is probably one of the most highlighted books that I read ever. Let me look on Goodreads to see how many highlights I have. What? That's weird. It's not on here. This is so bizarre. What do you mean? Bitch, it's saying I haven't read it. What do you mean? I know I read it. I know it's on here. Okay, that's so weird. It says, Bell Hooks, All About Love, New Visions, right? I can't click on it. Nothing is happening. I don't want to remove it. But if I look up Red, books, like my Red shelf, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Ugh, I'm so annoyed. What the Goodreads. That book was one big highlight, truthfully. Like, I can't. You need to read it. Like, at least listen to the audiobook or something, please. But damn, I really loved it. Anyways, 5 stars, because I had to give it a rating, and I don't think it's anything less. And if you want to get into nonfiction, I would recommend. The first physical book we have is none other than Lost and Lassoed by, give me a second, Lila Sage. Yes, Lila Sage. This is my first physical book we're talking about. I did tab her up because why not? I was enjoying it. I caught myself smiling and I was like, wait, what page am I at? Page 10, bitch. Page 10. The banter and the he takes care of her aspect, I eat it up every time. I feel like this Rebel Blue Ranch series is just one big comfort, easy, fast-paced, short, refreshing book to read in between your heavy fantasies. Really liked that Teddy was a reader in here. I always love that about female or any character when I read. I'm like, you're a reader? So am I. I love that. Just gives a touch more relatability, if that's a word. The epilogue in here set up so good for Wild and Wrangled. Like, Lila Sage, like, I feel like you have to read the epilogue in this book. So I am eagerly waiting for Wild and Wrangled. I'm pretty sure it comes out in April. I could totally be wrong, but yeah, really excited, and I enjoyed it. Oh, also, I felt like it was a little spicy for me, being such a short book. Like, I could have done with maybe 2 less scenes, maybe 3. I felt like the third act conflict was predictable, given the tropes in here. But obviously, when you have the tropes, how many third act conflicts can you have? You know? The next book I read was for my Booked and Busy book club that I host here in my city. And we read P.S. I Hate You by something O'Connelly, Lauren O'Connelly. I also read this on my Kindle, so are we surprised? No, ever since I got my Kindle Colorsoft, I just want to read everything on Kindle. An ebook right now is just slapping, okay? P.S. I Hate You was kind of a mixed read for me personally. Maddie is the female main character of this story, and she loses her brother. And one last hurrah that her brother does in his will is make her and his best friend travel, and they have to go to these coordinates on a sealed envelope, and then when they're at the coordinates, then they can open up the letter. And so it kind of gives them forced proximity, it gives them traveling and adventures, while also dealing with losing the brother who never got to go to that place. And they're also spreading ashes, so he's able to be at the places he's never been. So the idea is sweet. It's really, like, I really liked that. And it kind of made me reflect on how much I haven't traveled but want to. As someone who has lost immediate family, I feel as though Maddie and the way that the author wrote her grief, to me, came across so self-centered, and she was stubborn, and I couldn't get past it because, and maybe, and I'm not, every person's grief journey is different. I'm not saying it's very linear. I'm not saying it's one size fits all, but to me, I couldn't get over the fact that Maddie felt so selfish and so rude and inconsiderate to other people. To me, that took a large toll for me on the book, as the main character is grieving her brother, and it's so grief centered, and if I'm not liking the way that the character is going through it, not saying it's not realistic, but for me personally, I couldn't get it. So and then coordinates and like that whole adventure were just so outlandish, and I was like, what the is going on? Like, I don't know. Some of the scenes, specifically the North Dakota scene, if you've read it, if you're gonna read it, just the North Dakota scene, no. No. And then there was like a lot of spice. And I just couldn't get past it, and maybe it's because I personally felt like Maddie was an unlikable character, and therefore it's a 3. There were parts I liked, there were a lot of parts I didn't like. The next book I read was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I read this because it was Sarah Curley's book club pick, and I'm going to be so honest. I had no intentions of picking up this book simply because I don't care for diving or swimming, or it's not that I don't want to read academic setting books. It's just I had no intention of reading this book, but it got picked, and I have FOMO, okay? I have FOMO, and I heard like a lot of good things, and so I was like, okay, whatever. Besties, I DNF'd this book. I liked Haunting Adeline. A weird, like, I had a better time reading that than I did Deep End. What does that say? I don't know. I have read The Love Hypothesis, I think, or I've read one of her STEM books. I've read loved Bride. So I like Ali Hazelwood as an author. And I do like spicy, kinky, crazy, dark books. From the start, I felt like I wasn't going to like it. And I felt like we were missing a lot of background context for this character, and maybe that was intentional, so as we read, we learn more about the backstory. But I just initially couldn't connect, and I felt very confused. Scarlett, she is the diver and also the female main character, and I felt like her anxiety and overthinking, it was super relatable, but the pacing and emotional engagement that we had was very hard for me. It didn't hold my interest, unfortunately. I like DNF'd it at like the 68% mark because I just had no inkling, no care to know where the story goes. It's a romance, so we all know that there's going to be some kind of happy ending. There's going to be a third act conflict, and I already felt like I wasn't liking the book. So why struggle reading a book I don't like, knowing I'm going to give it a lower review? The next book I read, boom, I actually have a physical copy, and it is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I read this mostly as an audiobook, simply to get through it. I liked the audiobook a lot. I thought it was a good narration version of this story. The beginning immediately pulled me in. It had been a while since I had read a thriller, so I was a little nervous. Jess is the female main character, I believe. And I believe she's in Paris, or she goes to Paris because she feels something is wrong with her brother. And there were lots of point of views in here that took me a while to understand, but I think it brought a lot to the story. Because I was reading it mostly audiobook, everything was kind of getting bunched together a little bit, but that was my fault. I totally could have read it physically, and I might maybe, but now that I know the ending, it's kind of hard. Like, do you reread thrillers? I don't know. The twist was a stretch, in my opinion. I felt like it was a strong start, middle, okay ending, if that makes sense. So I gave this a 3.5 because it was engaging. It was a little thrilling. I liked it. I liked the mystery aspect, but it was just not my favorite. Okay. And then I read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I'm pretty sure I read this in one day because my ebook and the audiobook was going to expire in one day. I was like, I have to read it now or never, because how many times have I put it on a monthly TBR and then just have not read it? So I was like, I cannot disappoint the besties. I have to come on here and say that I read it. So please be proud of me. Thank you for clapping. I feel so accomplished reading this. I'm like, damn, finally. So I absolutely loved the Natural series by her. That was the first series I read. So I was really excited to pick up another series by her. I really like the way she writes and the short chapters. And I feel like she's very twisty, turny. And I was very excited to start this because I feel like a lot of people have read this series and enjoyed it. So we started her. I gave her a 4 stars. I was immediately drawn, and I know I just shit on academic settings, okay? I know I did, but to me, this is different. I don't know. To me, this is a YA, whereas I know Deep End is an adult. Very different academic settings, okay? Anyways, she's also a book girly, so like, hi bestie. The short chapters, loved that. This family secrets, very intrigued to find out what was happening. Avery being chosen out of the blue, completely unprovoked. I guess, is that the right word? I don't know. But her being chosen at random, very interesting. And then trying to figure out along with the character why she was chosen. I loved that. I'm very excited to continue the series with the Hawthorne Legacy. I believe it's right here. When I'll get to it, hopefully sooner rather than later. The last book I read in February, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I have yet to rate this because I did a reread of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame in January, and I loved my reread way more than my first time reading it, and I feel as though I need to do a reread for this to really grasp my feelings towards this. I am right now sitting at a 4. A 4 seems solid to me simply because it's not my favorite, not a 5-star feeling, definitely not. The ending low-key pissed me off. Did I feel like this book was information dumping? Yeah. Did I just go along for it with the plot? Yes. These side characters and the found family made this book for me personally. Do we still have a lot of questions? Yes. Are we waiting another 2 years for the next book? Also, yes. To be honest, I did not cry at this book. Actually, I did. I did lie just now. I cried about this book on the idea that something was going to happen to a character. I was so far wrong. I started crying just at the thought of something happening, but not at the ending. I actually am not a fan of the ending at all. Like the last 100 pages, I really wish went a different direction than they did. However, I'm not Rebecca Yarros, and I am not the average stan for the Empyrean series. I enjoy this series, but I'm not obsessed with this series, and I feel like that's where I stand. And low-key, me and my book bestie haven't talked since I finished this book. I'm being 100%. We have not talked since I finished this book because she is part of the stan, the obsessed. I am part of the I'm mad. I'm mediocre about this series. I need to read it to be a part of the fandom. But yeah. Okay. And I'll leave it at that. And that was the last book I read in February. Now moving into March, I read 11 books. I read 3,436 pages. I listened to 27.17 audiobook hours, and my average rating was a 4.17. So the first book, I started this in February, and I finished it in March, and it is the 4th Zodiac Academy book. And I was talking with besties in the Discord, and they're like, girl, this is where the plot thickens. This is where the series picks up. And I'm like, oh God. I'm already obsessed, and I've only read 3 books. What do you mean this is when it starts to pick up? What do you mean this is when people start getting obsessed? Like, I already am there. So I was really scared simply because of their heads up. I gave this book a 4.5. And I say that because I am listening with the audiobook and the ebook. I find that I am so more immersed, and it's easier to distinguish between the characters with the audiobook. That is personally dictated off of Libby and their holds. It had been a while since I had read book 3 to book 4. It was a little slow, took me a little bit. Like, I needed to read the last chapter on my Kindle of the 3rd book before going into the 4th book to remember what happened. But once I was back in it, bitch, I was in it. I was It was chaos in the best way. I loved the insight of the twins' family history. Not giving too much away. Again, this is like the 4th book in a series, so I'm trying to be very mindful with what I say. The ending, literally the ending, the cliffhanger, definitely gave it the 0.5 boost. Like, it was sitting at 4 stars, and then the ending bumped it up to a 4.5. Oh my god. I'm pretty sure I teared up. My jaw was on the floor. When I tell you, I immediately messaged in the Discord and I was like, bitch, what the just happened? And then I returned a book from Kindle Unlimited to download the 5th book immediately, because I needed to know that what happened at the end of that book was a lie. Like, 100%. I immediately started Curse Fates because I needed to know what the is gonna happen. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. Like, I'm getting heated. I'm getting heated. Please, if you haven't read it yet, or if you have, you need to retry reading the Zodiac Academy series. And I'm not even done with the series. I just know that it's going to be my Roman Empire. In the 4th book, chef's kiss. So much happens. But am I currently reading Cursed Fates? That's 886 pages. I am. Am I loving it? I am. Next book. Okay. And then the next book I read in March was No Exit by Taylor Adams. I could be wrong. This one was a 4.5 stars. I read this in one day and I didn't even mean to. I had the audio on Libby and I picked it up because I felt like I needed a fast pace genre switch up. And I just started it, and I remember folding laundry and like jaw dropped. I had no idea. It was very gory. Maybe check trigger warnings, because I felt like this was one of the more gorier mysteries that I personally have read. The Paris Apartment and No Exit was way better to me. Personally, the female main character was bold, she was brave, she was a little funny. I loved that the chapters were broken down by time, like timestamps. It's a huge part of the plot is timing, and I liked how the chapters were broken up in time. Okay, why did that take so long to say? I don't know. Why am I over explaining it? I really enjoyed the little glimpses into the other characters' lives. I feel like it definitely upped the tension. I feel like this was more thrilling than it was mysterious, whereas the Paris Apartment was more mysterious and less thrilling. Take that with what you want. Again, this book is gory. It's ruthless. Really ruthless. Okay, I am saying this and I'm really remembering what happens. So going into it, it's gory, and it was very unpredictable. The ending, at first I thought the ending was going one way, and then it like went the other way, and I was like, oh my god, thank god. Like, I was scared. But I have to say, this was one of the best thrillers that I have read in a really long time, and I would definitely recommend it. 4.5 stars. I'm so excited to talk about this book. The next book I read was The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. Oh my god, I loved it. It was 4.5 stars. I feel like I couldn't give it a 5 stars. Although Crown of Midnight, Throne of Glass was 5 stars, I feel like I couldn't, but it totally could be. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being picky at this point, and it's a 4.5. But all I can say is this one hurt. This one hurt. Oh my god. And now reading it, I could totally see why people say read this book first. Totally get it. However, I feel as though because I've read the first 2 books, that this one hurt even more. Does that make sense? Getting more of a certain male character and the female main character in here was just really nice. I enjoyed it. It provided context for her trauma, for her rage, for her feelings. I definitely appreciated this book. I loved the betrayals, the different settings, the badassery Selena Sardothian is. Holy shit. Totally understood her female rage. Again, I keep saying that, but like after reading it, yes, girl. Yes. Excuse, my battery died. Sorry. Female rage, totally understand now. Totally support. Not that I didn't support her before, but I felt like I was more empowered and more emotional than expected. So I cannot wait to get into. Wait, I don't have the book on here. Oh my god, we need to change that ASAP, actually, for my next TBR jar. Putting Air of Fire on here because what do you mean? Long story short, I'm excited to read Air of Fire, and Sarah J. Maas is a mastermind. The next book I read was Scythe and Sparrow by Bryn Weaver, the Love Ruinous trilogy. Yes. I gave this book a 4 stars. The part I liked a lot in this book was the Suture sisters. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you should read it to know. Out of the 2 main characters, I liked Fionn more. Initially, the timing of this book confused me, but then I realized, and I feel like no one talks about it, this book happens during the first 2 book timelines. Was like, what is happening? And then I remembered what happened in the first 2 books, and I was like, wait, this is the same timeline. What? And that wasn't clear to me in the beginning. So I just feel like I have to say that. Like, this series happens all at the same time, different point of views, different plot things. Like, I liked that part. I don't know why. So this one just felt like an addition, but not necessary. So like, yeah, but I still enjoyed it. Clearly gave it 4 stars. I loved being with these characters. I loved the glimpses of the first 2. Rose is a motorcycle rider at a circus. Fionn is a small town doctor. Rose is a vigilante of sorts. She's a girl's girl, and she doesn't have the best of luck. And so she often leans on Fionn to help her out. And that's all I'll say. But long story short, this felt like bonus content I didn't know I needed, but enjoyed. The next book was our booked and busy book club pick for March. And March is Women's History Month. And so we decided to go with Lisa C's Lady Tan's Circle of Women. And I was really hopeful for this book. I loved A Song to Drown Rivers, which is about a Chinese mythology retelling, so it's a little bit more fantastical, whereas this is more historical fiction. And so I was really excited about it because this also deals with ancient China and women's lives in the 1500s. I gave this a 5 stars. And this was my first Lisa C book, and I was very concerned because I was like, if you look at the back of the book, it is a white woman writing in depth about Chinese culture and upbringing and history. And it was something that was a little jarring, but I never said anything. But come to find out, she's a quarter Chinese, and so it's valid. And so I felt a little bit more comfortable after reading it. I'm like, okay, like what she's saying, what she writes, she's apparently, like, that's her MO. She writes a lot about Chinese culture and Chinese history. So I didn't know that reading this, and so it was comforting at the book club to know that. I was intrigued by the Chinese medicine in the 1500s, the pregnancy, how things worked, the solutions and the superstitions, I guess. It was all very interesting. The spiritual context of everything and what things meant and how things were perceived and doing things to prevent things. I'm being very vague, but if you read it, you'll know a little bit more of what I'm talking about. However, despite loving historical fiction, like I love Kristen Hanna, I love historical elements in my books, I didn't love this one. For me personally, the pacing and emotional pull weren't there for me, and so I feel like that affected my connection to the female main character. I feel as though the story is important and the impact is there. And if you are interested in reading something like this, I would definitely recommend. It's about Tan Yunshan. I'm so sorry. I listened to the audiobook and I feel like it saved a lot of my mispronunciations. But she is raised by her grandparents, and her grandparents are in the medical field, and so that is a prevalent part of her, and so she becomes a midwife of some sorts. She is really good at making tinctures and solutions and remedies to sicknesses, disease, broken bones, surgeries, like all of that kind of stuff. Just follows her legacy of being married into a family and having to produce an heir, and the reality of it for her and so many women at that point. And it just dealt a lot with pregnancy. So if that is potentially a triggering topic, I would not recommend this book. If you're in a good headspace, I would recommend this book, but maybe check trigger warnings because it deals a lot with pregnancy and the complexities and challenges of birth and labor and all of that. The next book I read, Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. What a change up from Lady Tan. I am so excited that I read this. I feel so accomplished. I gave this a 5 stars, and I think I'm being very lenient when I say 5 stars because this series as a whole is a 5 stars for me. I was so excited to pick this up because I wanted to be back in the Magnolia Parks universe. Yes, please. Besties, that fragrance is strong. I love this book so much. I feel like this really solidified my Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates dynamic, and I devoured it. I loved seeing that part of this book. The prose that Jessa Hastings have is just beautiful. It's lyrical. Of course, it's going to follow through all of the books in the series. 3 point of views I really enjoyed. It's the same timeline, and it was a perspective that I didn't know I needed, but happy to have. Similar with Scythe and Sparrow, I felt as though the ending of The Long Way Home and then reading this makes so much sense, but I felt like the ending was a little abrupt. That is personal preference to me. However, I know that the mastermind that Jessa Hastings is that she did on purpose to keep the readers engaged, keep them intrigued, keep them wanting more and more. I want. So I was upset at the ending. I wanted a little bit more. I felt like it was a little bit more abrupt, but knowing the ending of The Long Way Home, she had to stop it there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very intrigued to go into the dark. I'm scared. However, I know that it's going to break me and heal me all at once. But I'm just sad that like we don't have an ETA on Daisy Hates and Christian's story. So yeah, it's just sad knowing that, and it was a little, I guess, tender to finish it. I feel like as though I could have read another 100 pages minimum. Like she owes us that. She can't just do that, but she can, and she did. But I'm like, damn, I would have read another 100 pages because I feel like this is the shortest book in the series. And I'm like, damn it. Why am I putting it back in my TBR cart? I read it. We have 3 more books to talk about, bitch. We got it. So I read Adelaide by Genevieve Wheeler. I'm very happy to announce that. I feel like this one was a looming on my TBR cart. Never picked up. I felt as though she was just there waiting. And it's just so interesting how many books are on your TBR cart and on your bookshelves that are just sitting there waiting for you to understand and read the story. Anyways, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say. So I gave this a 3.5. I read this in one day because my audiobook was almost done. I just need to say, do not be fooled by this cute aesthetic cover. Read the fucking trigger warnings. Like, you jump right in the deep end and then you are like struggling to get out. Holy cannoli. Like, please read the trigger warnings. Why did no one tell me this? Like, you think that this is a really cute, simple aesthetic cover? No. You should read the trigger warnings. It talks about mental health and the struggles of mental health, the depression, suicidal ideations, attempts, a lot, generational trauma, societal norms, love and self-love and pregnancy and so much stuff. So please, if you are interested in this book, please check the trigger warnings. However, I appreciated its honesty, its vulnerability. She has an author's note, and I want to read something. It says, "This is a work of fiction. As is true in many fictional works, aspects of the story were inspired by life experiences. However, all of the characters, all of the dialogue, and all of the events described in this book are wholly imaginary." It says, "But the love, the grief, the pain, the joy, the feelings, those are all genuine, existing, living, and breathing off the page. I hope those are the bits that feel the most real to you, reader. They're certainly the most real to me." And I just have to say, that is what I enjoyed most about the book, is the feelings, the honesty, the internal dialogue about such realistic events that can happen in your life were very real and very understandable. I don't want to say relatable. My life and this character's life are very different. Again, I just have to say I would recommend this, but please read the trigger warnings. So I gave it a 3.5 simply because I wasn't the most connected. It definitely was not an easy read, but I think it's an important one. The next book I read was Nightbane by Alex Oster. I rated this, I'm stuck between a 3.5 and a 4. I think I'm leaning towards a 3.5. I was scared to go into this because it had been a while since I read Lightlark, also because a lot of people said that this book flopped for them and they had no interest after this book to read or continue the series. And so I was scared because I personally loved Lightlark and I was so excited to continue the series. I was hesitant to get into this. Really enjoyed the flashbacks and the context of the first book. Helped me understand and kind of grasp what was happening in the world. I feel as though there's a huge plot point at the end of Lightlark, and in this, not plot point, trope, I guess, that I don't really f with. I learned that out. I don't really with it. So knowing that, and that's a huge part of this book, was a little tough for me. However, that specific trope, I wanted to know why. And it was interesting to kind of unravel what happened as the character was figuring out what happened. There were betrayals, past and present timelines. However, I thought it was sometimes confusing, but that's just me personally. It could have been the way I was taking in the information. It could have been because I didn't read Lightlark and Nightbane back to back. Like, it could have been me or it could have been the book. I'm not sure. I feel like some of the tropes were very cliche and an easy way out, if that makes sense. Again, unoriginal. Let me say unoriginal in a romantasy setting. Literally, I just remember finishing the book and being like, damn. I'm intrigued to see what happens, especially the ending of this. I feel as though I potentially missed a lot of the small details, a lot of the smaller plot points or storylines, because I mostly listened to this via audiobook, but I still feel as though there was an emotional connection that I enjoyed. So I'm thinking landing on a 3.5 for it. I'm intrigued to pick up Skyshade and see where Alex Aster takes the story. I don't regret reading it, if that makes sense. The last book I read was on my Kindle. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and I looked up historical fiction audiobooks on Audible, and Keeper of the Stars is included in my specific Audible membership by Buck Turner. He is a smaller author. I think he only has like 4,000 or 400 followers on Goodreads. And so I was intrigued. It's a historical fiction. It has romance subplot. Like, that's like my favorite kind of genre right now. And so I was excited to read it. It was a shorter book. I think it's like 304 pages or 324 pages, something like that. I decided to pick it up, and I am so happy that I did. It's one of those books that, like, I had no preconceived notion or feelings about it, and I feel as though those are the books that I typically enjoy the most, or that are pleasant surprises. And so I gave this a 3.5. It was a quick, perfect summer book. Like, if you are wanting like a summary, dual timeline, childhood friends to lovers, to strangers, back to lovers kind of thing, I would definitely recommend this. It's on Kindle Unlimited. You have a free audiobook if you have Audible. It had surprising emotional depth to it. It starts in like the 1950s or 60s, and then it goes to 2020. And there are flashbacks between the two timelines, which I really enjoyed, because you'll find out something in 1963, but then you're flashed back to 2018, and then you're flashed back to 1972, and then you are flashback. So I personally liked that. Had dual point of view, which love. I really liked the female main character's arc. I was a little hesitant. She wasn't my favorite, but I appreciated her character arc towards the end. As a woman in STEM, I love seeing that representation, especially from a male author point of view. The trope and or the conflict was very cliche, very predictable, but satisfying, if that makes sense. There are letter aspects in this story. Something about it, maybe it's my words of affirmation love language, but the letters were surprisingly impactful, and I got teary-eyed at the end of the book. And I would definitely recommend reading the epilogue or epilogues, because I'm pretty sure there are two epilogues in the two different characters' point of view, which was interesting, and I liked that. If you are wanting a book that is kind of lower on the radar, I would highly recommend it. It was emotional in like the best way. Again, I think it's perfect for a summary read. It's about two teenagers falling in love with on a lake setting kind of thing. I recommend it, and I'm so excited to maybe continue Buck Turner's backlog. And besties, that is it. I know I have yapped far too long, but we had a lot of books to talk about, and what better way to sit down, take a break out of your day, maybe have a coffee or a matcha and a snack and just listen and yap about books. Like, I am so excited to have spent my afternoon with you. I don't know what time you're watching this, but I just have to say thank you so much for watching my video. If you have read any of these books, please go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. What were some of your favorite books that you read? I just love anything and everything books. So leave me a comment about maybe what was your favorite read from the 2 months. If you've read any of these, do we have different opinions, different ratings? That's the fun part about reading. It's subjective. And if you've made it this far, leave me a red heart emoji, because of All About Love. It's a red cover. It's all about love, and I love that book. Leave me the red heart emoji. And I hope to see you guys in my next video very soon. Bye!